Now, you must have noticed that the moment you see certain people, you feel happy. But with others, you immediately feel uncomfortable. This is karma at work. Within you, there is some energy that causes this to happen. There is almost nothing you can do about it. Handsome men and beautiful women are spontaneously treated well wherever they go. Unattractive ones are treated badly. This is their karma, even though they don't want it. It is very difficult to change. What explanation can we give for this very, very common and daily phenomenon? Karma makes your life difficult. Karma makes it easy. The acts that you have created, the acts that you have done, make it happy or not happy. So the way to react back is not by creating more negative karma. The way to react back is accept with dignity the already made karma, and by suffering through it, by bearing it, one purifies it, and when one has purified it, that karma cannot come back again. If one reacts back by creating more negative karma, how can one avoid it again in the future? If one does not like it now, how can one like it in the future? However, this karma is not permanent or fixed. Karma is a changeable phenomenon, which is what I've told you many times. It is changeable. You can change it. It is not permanent, like all phenomena. All the same, until the energy of a certain karma is expended or used up, one has to tolerate one situation. That is the only solution. One has to tolerate one's situation, whatever it might be. That is the only way to expend that karma. A faster way to expend it or to purify it is to do purificatory practices, like I mentioned yesterday. Without any purification practices, according to Dharma, then that karma, you'll have to suffer through it. They'll have to arise. You have to go through it. And if you do the purification practices and the Dharma practices and the karma arises, it will be much less. And when it happens, not to complain back, not to shout and scream and not to be upset by it, but to take it with dignity and to solve the problem according to the karmic effects to the best of your ability. And try not to create further new karma, which will bring that experience around again. It's very, very logical. Take, for example, we have a wonderful dog at this center. The dog's name is Cinnamon. He's out there every time we come in. He's wagging his tail. He wants to lick us. Maybe we want to lick him. I don't know. But we all love the dog. Cinnamon is a very sweet and wonderful dog. He's always guarding the center. He's always wagging us. And every time we come in, he's wagging, licking us. Some of us like it. Some of us don't. And we all love him. Buddha loves him. Jesus Christ loves him. He loves us. We love him. But we cannot teach him any Dharma. We cannot convey any Dharma to him. Until his body changes into a more suitable one, where it will be possible for him to have this sort of contact. That is his karma. All samsara sentient beings have to accept what they are going through until the power of the karmic energy behind the experience has run out. So until Cinnamon's karma has run out, in order to get the Dharma, we can love him, we can kiss him, we can teach him the Dharma, we can recite mantras, we can give him lamrim, we can teach him how to prostrate, he'll wag his tail and wait for food. And we love him, Jesus loves him, Buddha loves him, everybody loves him. It's all love here. But it doesn't help. The karma has ripened. The karma has ripened. And the only way is to make sure that the karma finishes. That is it. When the causal energy of a particular action is exhausted, it no longer brings an effect. When the cause of that effect is finished, there can be no effect. The effect will finish. You must expend the karma. You must finish it. Each sentient being lives according to his or her way of thinking, level of conscious energy, attitude, and environment. That is karma. Every person is individual. Every person is different and unique. Their suffering, their happiness, their looks, their appearance, their likes and dislikes, their way of approaching life, the way life approaches them is very unique. Not two people are the same. Not two living beings, we say in Tibetan, kamsa, or sentient beings is the same because not two beings collect the same karma. So since not two sentient beings ever collect the same karma, No two sentient beings will ever be alike. Ever. Although some of us wear matching shirts like this gentleman and that lady, but still you're not alike. So each sentient being lives according to his or her own way of thinking, level of consciousness, level of conscious energy, attitude, and environment. That is their karma. That is karma. So I am using the word karma a lot here. I hope you understand what I mean. It is action. It is action and the intent to make that action. That is karma. In conclusion, all the Buddhas show you the true path and true cessation. Show you the true path and the true cessation. What cessation? The cessation of suffering. Unhappiness. The Dharma that liberates you from samsara. And they try to make you realize that what really guides you is you're acting correctly in accordance with the path. That is what's going to liberate you. This means that you, not the Buddhas, are ultimately responsible for your liberation. They can teach you, they can show you, they can guide you, they can bless you, but they cannot do it for you. And they cannot give you what they have done. When we go to learn computers, the knowledge of the computer teacher cannot be transferred over to us. He can show us. If we don't learn it, when he's teaching it to us, we suck on a bubble gum and we think about our girlfriends and we're thinking about running out to the loo or a Pepsi. We're not going to learn it. No matter how knowledgeable he is in the computer field, if we do not listen, think about it, and then do it, how will we learn? Same as in Dharma. Same. So just knowing it, reciting it, understanding, having the books, having all the outer signs of Dharma, going to the temple, the first and the 15th, vegetarian, putting joss sticks out, having a Kuan Yin statue that's 300 years old and you have never touched, never moved it, because if you do, it's bad luck. It's not Dharma. Right? It will never, ever bring about Dharma. And I've seen some old Kuan Yins that people have never, ever moved. And when you finally move it and clean it, you have to get the hatchet out. Cannot remove it full of stick. I say, why you don't move it? Oh, if we move, it's bad luck. I say, why is it bad luck? Don't know.